साहब दामद बरकातुहुम मदफ़ियुज़ुम अल्लाहु मरातिबहुम अपने मलफूजात से हमको नवाजेंगे यहाँ तक कि इशा हो जाएगी इंशाअल्लाह। इशा 10:30 है मौलाना साहब, 10:30 है। हाँ, इशा 10:30 है, तो वहाँ तक आप जमकर इत्मीनान से बैठिए इंशाअल्लाह। अल्लाह पाक हमारी इस कॉन्फ्रेंस को कामयाब भी करे, कबूल भी फरमाए। जो हजरात दूर से बाहर से तशरीफ लाए हैं उनका आना भी कबूल फरमाए और मकामी लोगों के लिए भी मुफीद बनाए। तशरीफ लाइए कारी मकबूल साहब, अपनी तिलावत से मजमे को महजूज फरमाइए।
अस्सलामु अलैकुम वरहमतुल्लाहि वबरकातुहू। अऊज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम। बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम। वमा मुहम्मदुन इल्ला रसूल क़द ख़लत मिन क़ब्लिहि रुसुल अफ़इन मात औ क़ुतिला इंक़लबतुम अला अअक़ाबिकुम वमन यन्क़लिब अला अक़बैहि फलन यज़ुर्रल्लाह शैअन वसयजज़िल्लाहु الشاكرين। وما كان لنفس أن تموت إلا بإذن الله كتابا مؤجلا ومن يرد ثواب الدنيا نؤته منها ومن يرد ثواب الآخرة نؤته منها وسنجزي الشاكرين। وكأين من نبي قاتل معه ربيون كثير فما وهنوا لما أصابهم في سبيل الله وما ضعفوا وما استكانوا والله يحب الصابرين والله يحب الصابرين وما كان قولهم إلا أن قالوا ربنا اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وإسرافنا في أمرنا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين فآتاهم الله ثواب الدنيا وحسن ثواب الآخرة والله يحب المحسنين صدق الله العظيم.
جی حمد باری تعالیٰ قاری نعیم اسماعیل صاحب.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All brothers are inshallah requested to join in. Praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah, Allah, Allahu, la ilaha illahu. Allah, Allah, Allahu, la ilaha illahu. Allah, Allah, Allahu, la ilaha illahu. جانے والا ہر ایک لمحہ دیتا ہے پیغام. جانے والا ہر ایک لمحہ دیتا ہے پیغام. ہر شے فانی اس دنیا کی، ہر شے فانی اس دنیا کی، باقی تیرا نام مولا. اللہ 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 لا الہ الا ہو. اللہ 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 لا الہ الا ہو، لا الہ الا ہو. ہر ذرہ ہے محو ثنا اللہ تیرے حضور. ہر ذرہ ہے محو ثنا اللہ تیرے حضور. تیری عطا کا ساتھ رہے تو، تیری عطا کا ساتھ رہے تو ہوگا یہ غم دور مولا. اللہ 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 لا الہ الا ہو. اللہ 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 لا الہ الا ہو، لا الہ الا ہو. صحرا میں تو ہے، گلشن میں تو پھر بھی ہے لامکاں. सहरा में तू है, गुलशन में तू फिर भी है लामका। है कल्बे मोमिन तेरा ठिकाना, है कल्बे मोमिन तेरा ठिकाना, शहरत से ज्यादा करीब मौला। अल्लाह 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 ला इलाहा इल्लाहु। अल्लाह 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 ला इलाहा इल्लाहु। अल्लाह 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 ला इलाहा इल्लाहु, ला इलाहा इल्लाहु।
इंग्लिश के अंदर इंशाल्लाह बयान होगा। हजरत डॉक्टर जकरिया गोगा साहब।
That they've experienced sexual harassment. So the government launched this emergency commission to look at the scope of the problem. And the conclusion was that, this was published in June 2021, you can see it for yourself online. The conclusion was that when they interviewed girls, 9 out of 10 said they were victims of sex. They sent unwanted, explicit pictures or videos that they wanted, but they were sent to by lads. Nudes were shared regularly with boys on WhatsApp and Snapchat between each other, including what's called revenge. Children didn't see the point of reporting it because they thought this is a normal culture. Teachers and school leaders were aware that easy access to pornographic material, inappropriate material, it sets unhealthy expectations of what sexual relationships are, what sexual behavior is, and it results in. So this is, they're aware of this already. Do you all remember #MeToo? How many times do you think this hashtag against the 12 million? Okay, 12 million people reported on this hashtag within 20 minutes. Female MPs, you heard them, they're crying out. different to love. People mistake lust for what's different. Love is a deep, meaningful, powerful phenomenon that's beyond the external. Okay, you fall in love with somebody much for more reasons. Okay, and what they say is lust. If you want to view it, lust is for me. Researchers tell us that even from a neurological aspect, different parts of the brain is different. The different parts of the brain are responsible for lust, and different parts of the brain are love. And the difference between lust and passion. And some relationships, let's say, it takes 8 years for a solid relationship to form. Okay? And that's why it's very rare to fall in love. Okay? Now, interestingly, there's another theory that tells us that lustful behavior, which remember starts with a look. Lustful behavior starts with a look. It actually is an unconscious means of seeking comfort. This is what research tells us, psychologists say. It's an unconscious way of seeking comfort. In particular, during these chaotic teenage years, what you need to understand as parents, look, when your child is young, you're their superhero. By the time they hit 11, 12, 13, what are you? Right? But they don't validate themselves with you anymore. Okay, they validate themselves with people around them, their friends. Okay? That period of their life is incredibly stressful for them. It's the most stressful period. Something or somebody else to help cope through this stressful period. And what happens is they turn to other coping strategies such as comfort eating or stress eating, drugs, alcohol, addictive behavior, and even what psychologists tell us, lustful behavior. They see it as a means of comfort. And this behavior then becomes a default as a coping mechanism when they're in their adulthood. Okay? So bear in mind all these things as we talk, as we go along. Another theory specifically for men, and that's why it's really important for men who are fathers, and even if you're not fathers yet, inshallah you will be, pay attention, okay? That with boys, if they haven't been shown love from their father, especially hands-on love, you know, there's nothing wrong with hugging your son, there's nothing wrong with kissing your son and telling your son, I love you, whatever age they are, okay? But if the children, if they don't get that, what happens in adulthood, this is really scary, what happens in adulthood, they seek out this unmet love that they didn't get from their father through what? I'll let you finish the story. You can figure it out for yourself, okay? Even if they're married, even if they're in a long-term relationship, they still seek out love through other means, and they don't realize what they're doing. They have an unmet need, but they're seeking it through different avenues. This is another theory. Now, look, you know, if this is left unchecked in childhood, it becomes a coping mechanism throughout adulthood as well. Now, bear all this in mind, and now add in fingertip access, okay, our phones, okay? Who doesn't have a smartphone, okay? Everybody has a smartphone now. Fingertip access, okay? Social media, internet, the problem's amplified. Do you know how many people watch porn? Percentage-wise? Adults? Loads. Give me a number, give me a metric. Percentage. 50%. It's just under 60. But if you let's just round it up to 50, that's 1 in 2 who are sat here right now. Inshallah, not the case. But think about it. Do you know how many children watch it regularly? 40%. Understand? So the instant access is not necessarily a good thing. When lockdown first happened, the first lockdown, one particular organization that does this, their subscriptions went up by 75% because, you know, there's lots of reasons, coping mechanism, boredom, whatever. But what does it do? Research concludes that, look, it creates a false impression of what a normal body is. What a normal body is. A normal body is a healthy body. That's it. Okay? It creates a complete false impression what intimacy is about, what sexual behavior is about. It's supposed to be intimacy, sohbah, jima, is supposed to be a mutual, satisfying expression of one's love for their spouse. Mutual, not one way. Okay? What it does, if your lifelong partner, wife, husband finds out that what do you think that would do to them? It would destroy them. It breaks trusts. Did you know research has shown that people who do constantly or repeatedly watch inappropriate material, they're actually not satisfied as much during intimacy? They don't feel satisfied. Couples actually have less intimacy. They're not as sexually active as they were, okay? And then for the one who's watching it, it creates unrealistic expectations. And there's a man called John Gottman, who's an international guru when it comes to relationships. So he has this institute in America called the Gottman Institute. He can put any couple in a room, watch them for 1 hour doing a task, and he can predict whether they're going to get divorced or not. He has a 90% hit rate. He's been doing this for decades. His words, word for word, I'll say it. Use of pornography by one partner leads the couple to have far less intimacy, yani jima, okay, sohbah, lovemaking, and ultimately reduces relationship satisfaction. We are led to unconditionally, like no questions here, unconditionally conclude that for many reasons pornography poses a serious threat to couple intimacy and relationship harmony. So what happens at a biological level when we experience pleasure with whatever it is, even bar of chocolate, okay? Certain hormones are released in the brain that result in comfort, pleasure, excitement, and so forth, okay? That feeling is highly addictive. It's highly addictive. In fact, even with ibadah, okay, you can miss the boat. People say, you know what? I love worshipping Allah because it makes me feel good. That's not why you worship Allah. You understand? That's not why you worship Allah. That's a bonus, but that's not why you do it. And someone came to Hassan al-Basri, I'm sure it was him, he said, I don't get any enjoyment in my ibadat. And Hassan al-Basri said, well, maybe you're worshipping ibadah and you're not worshipping Allah. So that feeling is highly addictive. And what happens is, because you get that kick, okay, you want it again. Okay, so imagine this scenario. Someone's talking about drugs. I'm sure they'll talk about it. But imagine the first time someone has a split. I'm acting like I've never done it. I'm acting like I know. I've never done it. I promise, right? But someone has a split. The first time they do it, that dopamine, which is your happy hormone, goes sky high, right? Sky high. Second time they do it, doesn't go as high. So what do? They take more. Third time doesn't go as high as the second time. So what do? They take more. And you can see where the cycle goes. It's a vicious cycle, addictive behavior. Okay, then what happens is, like people who use cocaine, they scan their brains at month 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, by month 4, the part of the brain that deals with self-control disappears. You lose your self-control. And so you're out of control because you still want that kick. So you do it over and over. It starts with 1, 2, 3. You can see where it goes, especially with viewing inappropriate material. It starts with small stuff and then it's just continuous. Okay, you see where this is going, right? Now, specifically with the issues that we're discussing, remember, it starts with a look. Then it becomes a what? A thought, a notion. Then it becomes a what? An intention. Then it becomes a what? An act. And it's a very famous tradition in our Islamic tradition that some of the ulama have said when a man becomes aroused, 2/3 of his intellect disappears. 2/3 of his intellect disappears. I'll let you finish. I can't say what I want to say because of the sanctity of the masjid, but you can work it out for yourself. Look, there are women, and we should have ultra-adult conversations about this. There are women in our community who loathe their husbands. They despise their husbands because they just see them as a sex toy. That's it. The only time the words "I love you" come out of the husband's mouth is during intimacy. Otherwise, throughout the day and throughout the years, there's no intimacy, there's no show of love, there's no connection, there's no emotion, there's no nothing. And they feel like, well, you're just using me for this. There are women who just detest nighttime because their husbands force them to do things that they don't want to do because their husbands are imitating the baqwas that they're watching over and over again because they think that's normal and they completely despise it. Okay, and so many times where I've heard it, women say, my husband spends more time looking at everybody else than me. It's heartbreaking. It destroys their soul. The anxiety that they have about, am I not good enough? What's wrong with me? That sort of, it destroys them, okay? Now, who here does not know somebody who's had to go through the pain of knowing that their lifelong partner, their husband or their wife, has had an affair? It's like we all know somebody now, understand? And usually, like they've studied this, social scientists, 40% of affairs is with someone who's a friend. 30% is with a work colleague. And they all say, I would never have imagined having an affair with somebody like this. I didn't even fancy her when we first met. You understand? So, but it starts
with there. But remember, every prohibition that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us is to safeguard something else. Okay, there's lots of ulama here, they'll tell you this, that every prohibition Allah has given us is to safeguard something else. Why is shirk prohibited? It's to safeguard tawheed. Why is stealing prohibited? It's to safeguard property. Why is murder prohibited? It's to safeguard life. Why is zina prohibited? It's to safeguard lineage. It's to safeguard the family unit. You understand? There's a long-term goal here when Allah sets prohibitions. Now I could go on and on, but out of shadam, I'm gonna stop. But look, what I'm trying to say is that you can see where I'm going with this. But this is a fact that we just forgot. COVID just, it made us remember. It reinforced the concept that no one knows how long they've got left on this planet. You have no idea when our time is up. No idea whatsoever. Okay? But what we do know is that one day our time is up. And there's another world there, and it's more real than here. That's when we really wake up, where things will be more tangible. And it's everlasting, it doesn't stop. Okay? And the only salvation in reaching Allah is with a sound heart. That's it. يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. Your wealth, your children will be of no benefit except the one who comes with Allah with a qalbun salim. إِنَّ فِي الْجَسَدِ مُضْغَةً إِذَا صَلَحَتْ صَلَحَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ وَإِذَا فَسَدَتْ فَسَدَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ أَلَا وَهِيَ الْقَلْبُ. To the effect, in your body there's a piece of flesh. If it's purified, the rest of the body's pure. If it's ruined, the rest of the body's ruined. It's the heart, okay? And we discussed this in December when we talked about Hazrat Rahimahullah, about the benefits that I had with him, waking you up and connecting you to Allah, letting love be your driver when you're on your journey to Allah. And the other thing was purification before you have that great meeting with Allah. Now the path of purification, according to my Hazrat Rahimahullah, our Hazrat Rahimahullah, is what he said was after yaqeen, after certainty of faith sets in you, there's only two things you need to do. Number one, whatever your maker's told you to do, do it. And whatever your maker's told you not to do, don't do it. Because there's benefit in both worlds, okay? Now committing sin, okay, any sin, it obliterates your path to God, to Allah. It's one of the biggest blockers going to Allah. And some ulama, they said that it's like somebody saying, I'm going to get close to Allah through nafal, but I'm not going to do my fard. What would you say of that person? You're mad. You understand? And that's what sins are like, is that it just obliterates your deeds completely. And so if some of us, if we're wondering, why am I doing so many good things, but I'm not getting anywhere? It could be because we're engrossed in so much wrong, okay? Now, one of the greatest neglected edicts that Allah has given us is controlling of one's gaze. Maulana Shaykh Ali Thanwi Rahimahullah used to say that out of a thousand, only one is saved. That was in his time, okay? Out of 1,000, only one is saved, okay? It's one of the most biggest neglected problems, and it's a spiritual disease, okay? Remember, it starts with a look, then a thought, then intention, then action. Now read the verses of Surah Nur, the chapter of light, where Allah tells the believing men and women to lower their gaze because it's purer for them. It's purer for them. This is Allah talking, your maker. Now look, what I'm trying to say is, look, control your gaze, brothers and sisters who are listening. Honest, there's no hard and fast rules about this. You have to control it. You have to exercise enormous willpower and courage and do it. Maulana Masihullah Khan Sahib Rahimullah, who is the Khalifa of Maulana Ashrafia Rahimullah, used to say, any emotion you get is involuntary. You have no control over it. Don't worry about it. But the capacity to act or not do something is in your volition. It's up to you. It's a choice. Okay? So you have the capacity to act or not act. That's when the willpower and the courage needs to come in. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ said the first glance is waived, because it's involuntary. There was a brother, he asked the Shaykh, what if the first glance is? That doesn't count. It's the second one which is blameworthy, which is the prolonged one, okay? Now, the one who does this, the one who lowers the gaze, okay, and has what's called a tranquil eye, what Allah does, what's the gift according to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ? Someone knows, what does Allah give them in return? Sweetness of Iman. That's the ultimate goal of a believer. That's how you achieve a sound heart, a tranquil heart. It's a win-win situation. It's not hard to do, okay? And it's free. So how do we get there? How do we get to that tranquil eye and tranquil heart? We talked about this yesterday, in the Majlis. You have to take the way of prophecy. You have to take the way of the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Look, the first step is increasing your certainty, your yaqeen, in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Core beliefs like, look, you were made by a being with infinite intelligence. He loved you enough to give you life. Hazrat used to say this a lot, that the notion of existence, that you're alive, is the biggest ni'mah that a human being can have. Okay? And it's about being aware of that. Your very existence, your heartbeat, your breathing, your thought processes as you're listening to this, everything, your entire existence is dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you have a perfect maker who made you, and therefore you owe Allah everything. You understand? You owe Allah your everything. And the eye that He gifted you and I with, what did He give it us for? Our ulama say He gave it to us so that you can obviously navigate through life, but more so He gave it to you so that you can look at the heavens and the earth and creation and marvel at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's majesty. And so your yaqeen increases. He gave you these eyes so you could read the accounts of the traditions of the Prophet ﷺ, so you could fall in love with the Habib ﷺ. He gave you these eyes to read the accounts of the Salaf so you could be inspired. He gave you these eyes so that you could look at people with the eye of rahmah and help somebody who's in need. And ultimately, Imam Ghazali said He gave you this eye that one day you're going to be able to gaze at your Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala. That ain't a small thing. And if you want that to happen, you have to protect it here. You understand? Some of the ulama, they say, if you want to see the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam in your dream, your eyes can't be just looking here and there. It ain't going to happen. You understand? It's not going to happen. Shaykh Zakaria, when people, Rahimullah, when people used to come to him and say, I'm struggling to memorize the Quran, he'd ask them, how you doing with this? Because he would say it weakens the memory. It weakens. There's a story of a Hafidh al-Quran. When he was a young boy studying, he was looking at something that he shouldn't be looking at. And the Shaykh said to him, don't look at that. He said, what's the problem? It's nothing. And the Shaykh said, you're going to see the effects of this one day. 20 years passed. He said, I remember this conversation for my whole adulthood. He was a Hafidh al-Quran. 20 years passed. He said, I woke up one day, randomly, I forgot the whole Quran. This isn't a small matter. Okay, now look, when yaqeen sets in, if you don't have an identity, you don't know how to behave. Okay? But for an identity to kick in, you have to have certainty in something. When you have certainty and yaqeen in something, automatically your brain locks into an identity. What's our identity? It's Muhammadi. We are from the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That identity of being a Muhammadi kicks in. When that kicks in, you know how to behave. And ultimately, your model is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so then you ask yourself, what would the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam do in this situation? If you let that be your muraqabah, you're not going to get yourself into much trouble with Allah. Where would His hands reach out? Where would His feet go towards? Where would His eyes go? How would He respond? What would He choose to say? If you make that your entire being, you'll be fine, inshallah. Now see, the thing about, in terms of this topic, the Prophet ﷺ, he saw everybody for their humanity. Understand that. Before everything else, he saw them for their humanity. You all have heard the story of the young man who came to the Prophet. Can you imagine someone coming into the majlis and saying to Shaykh, Shaykh, give me permission to do zina? What would we all do? We'll take him outside and deal with him. Like, what are you doing? The Prophet ﷺ left him and he explained to him, he went through the whole list of female relatives, mother, sister, auntie, and the rest. And he asked him, would you like that to happen to your mother or your sister or your auntie or this or that? And he made the young impressionable man understand the concept of consequences and adab and humanity. And he understood. And he was teaching the concepts of humanity, that don't view people as a sexual object. That's what he was teaching before anything else. And this is our standard. So remember, your blameworthy soul, which is known as your nafs. And some scholars, they actually advise, give your nafs a name, like donkey. Okay, your blameworthy soul, give it a name. Okay, so that it's blameworthy. You can't eliminate it. It's with you until you die. But what you can do is subdue it. Al-kayyisu man dana nafsa wa amila lima ba'da al-maut. Hazrat Rahman used to say this all the time. This was something that was repeatedly out of his mouth. The intelligent one. This is a prophetic definition of intelligence. It's not doctor who's intelligent. Al-kayyisu man dana nafsa. The one who subdues his nafs. How do you subdue your nafs? The ulama, they say, fast. Especially if you have a problem with this. Fast or eat less. Imagine your nafs as a beast. If you want to weaken the beast, you starve it. It doesn't have as much power to do what it's good at. So fast or at least eat less. And then وَعَمِلَ لِمَا بَعْدَ الْمَوْتِ. And then the ulama say in meaning of this hadith is that impose upon yourself worship. And that for the beast, for the nafs, is a burden. It doesn't like it. And what happens is your nafs gets subdued and your soul rises. And proof of it is Ramadan. When you fast in Ramadan, you eat less, or you should eat less, because studies show that the Muslims' weight goes up. You eat less, okay, and your ibadah goes like in fifth gear, isn't it? I don't like using this term in a masjid, but your soul is dancing. Your soul's alive. Okay, that's what happens, okay? And that's the two things that you do. But the third thing you do is you keep yourself busy, so busy with beneficial things, beneficial for this world and the next, beneficial for you and the people around you. So you have no time for nonsense. You keep yourself ridiculously busy. Look, if you don't truly value your life, if you don't truly value what we've been given by Allah, if you don't truly value the capability that Allah has given a human being to achieve what they can achieve, you then have what's called holes in your life. You lose your sense of purpose. And when you have that, you have voids and you have holes. And what do? We don't realize we do it. We fill these holes with rubbish. We fill it with drugs, alcohol, addictive behavior, pornography, addiction to these devices and internet and whatnot, and living a life that we weren't designed to live, just to get that quick buzz, okay? We sabotage our own lives and we become our worst enemies. And the enemy is actually from within, it's our nafs. Now, it's really important that you do something meaningful with your life and commit to it with a sense of purpose, a higher purpose that's bigger than yourself, okay? A higher purpose, because without purpose, you walk around in circles. And I know some of you here and some of you listening, I know some of you might get comfort in waking up late, having pizza for your breakfast, getting on the sofa, lying down, playing PlayStation or Xbox for hours on end, or watching nonsense or whatever you watch. And I know I'm getting fat all day, right? I know you get some pleasure from that. But just think about this. Your life would be so much more richer and meaningful if you did something worthwhile, if you did something and took it on as a goal. And when you achieve that goal, you'll have a boost of confidence and motivation to do more. Okay, ask yourself a couple of questions. What does your family need? What does your street need? What does your community need? What does the world need? What can I give to this world? There are so many people out there who are in need.
भाई जिन लोगों की असर की नमाज बाकी है वो ऊपर जमात हो रही है, ऊपर चले जाओ, क्योंकि बाज़ लोग वो रोज़ाना 7:15 होती है ना, तो 7:15 समझ कर अभी आए. तो जिनकी असर की नमाज बाकी है, ऊपर जमात हो रही है, ऊपर चले जाओ.
Jazakallah khair. So just think about what you can bring goodness to the world around you with a purpose, okay? Think about your career. And I don't mean career in reference to money. I mean career in how you can bring benefit to the world around you. That should be your career. The focus of your career should only be, what can I bring benefit to the world around you? What about your own personal growth and becoming the best that you can be? What about your health and focusing on that? What about your fitness? What about your mental state? What about trying to reach mastery in all these things? What about committing, for those that haven't, memorizing the Quran? There was a boy in the first lockdown in our community. In the first lockdown, he said, I had bags of time. I was bored. I didn't know what to do. So I just picked up the Quran. In 9 months, he became a Hafiz of the Quran in the first lockdown. There was a young girl, I think she was only about 11, 12. In a few months, she did it. There was a boy, one of the, this was a few years ago. And he graduated from Darul Berry and he wasn't a Hafiz of the Quran. So he asked Hazrat to, I'm going to be a Hafiz. Can you listen to my sabak? So Hazrat said to him, yeah, I'll listen to every day. One condition. He said, what? He goes, learn 1 quarter a day. Right? In 90 days, he did it. Understand? The point is that you just do something. What about learning Arabic? How long are you going to cut yourself off from the language of the Quran and the language of the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? Your deen is restricted without it. Okay? Not in the absolute sense, but to a degree it is. What about learning your deen more deeply than just watching a few YouTube clips or reading a few books here and there? What about committing to classes more long term? What about taking the path of suluk, putting your hand in the hand of a shaykh and really trying to figure out this journey with Allah? What about taking on da'wah or tabligh and bringing benefit to people's lives who are distant from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, brothers and sisters? What about joining an initiative that already exists that brings benefit to people? These are things essentially that will define you, and do it properly. Don't dabble in these things because you'll never be happy. Dabblers aren't happy. People who aren't happy, they go from one thing to another, they're never happy. So do it properly and do it with a sense of purpose. And don't settle for mediocre. Aim high in your deen, in your dunya. Okay, Allah wants goodness for you. He wants you to prosper. He wants you to have goodness in this world and the next world. Now, specifically, my friends, for this topic, our Hazrat Raheem used to advise how to control it. He used to say, just simply look down. There's no hard and fast rules. If that doesn't work, look to your left-hand side and say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. If that doesn't work, then just simply close your eyes. Just close them. And when the more you do it, it becomes habit. And then he would say, then do a muraqabah, which is being vigilant, that when you're walking, you're looking down, just remember one day you're going to be 9 feet under. And you're going to get asked everything about whatever gift Allah gave you. One of this is a gift. This is a gift. You're going to get asked. And do that, and inshallah you'll find benefit. Another thing he used to say is often read رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ repeatedly. One of the benefits of that is actually it helps you lower your gaze. Now, you know, Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, he used to have a student called Rabi'i, and he used to walk the streets of Medina, and people used to think he was blind. And when he came to Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu's door, he knocked on his door, his family came in and said to Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu that your blind friend is here. That's what they said, your blind friend is here. So Ibn Abbas, he didn't tell anybody that he wasn't blind. He used to greet him smiling, and he used to say to him often, he'd say, لَوْ رَآكَ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ لَأَحَبَّكَ. That if the Prophet ﷺ was to see you, he would have loved you. Now, no wonder our Hazrat was loved by the Rasul ﷺ. And he was loved by the Prophet ﷺ. One of the brothers had a dream of the Rasul ﷺ when him and his brother Raheem was alive. And the Prophet ﷺ said to him, 2 brothers, they're my favorite brothers on the planet. Can you imagine that? just the Prophet ﷺ knowing your name. Can you imagine that? And he said, Yusuf and Abdul. And so if anybody there's people here who have traveled with Hazrat, and they'll tell you that here, abroad, in Safar, he was the same. He used to walk with his head down, wherever he was. Allah grant us that. You can't get this from books, brothers. You have to spend time with people. Now look, our ultimate, I'm going to finish with this inshallah because there's other speakers. Look, the ultimate element to assist you in this is taqwa. It's not my place to talk about taqwa. This is for the ulama, and I'm not a taqi. I'm still on this journey like you, I'm learning. Okay, but it's based on 2 things. Put Allah first. Firstly, put Allah first in your life. Okay, and the stuff that we've talked about in terms of doing what He's told you to do, staying away from what. And then the second thing is discipline. Discipline has negative connotations, but discipline is everything. If you want to achieve success in anything in life, it's all about discipline. Your character, who you are, is defined by your habits. Your habits is defined by your discipline. If you have good habits, if you have good character, it's because of good habits. You have good habits because of good discipline, and the opposite applies as well. Now listen to a story in terms of this concept of taqwa, of God consciousness. That it's in the Ihya by Imam al-Ghazali rahimahullah. There was a person called Sulaiman ibn Yasir, and he was on his way to Hajj, and he stopped off at Abwa. And at Abwa there was 2. It was him and his friend, and they were hungry. So one of them said, "I want to get some food." So the other one went to get some food. In those days, in the desert, there's Bedouin tribes. Sulaiman ibn Yasir was known for his beauty. He was a very handsome man. And this Bedouin woman saw him, and she was like, wow, this guy's really handsome. So she went to him, and she said to him, and Sulaiman said, when I looked at her, she was like the full moon. She was a beautiful woman. And she said to him, satisfy me, right? And he innocence, he said, you hungry? Wait here. My friend's gone to get. She said, no. I want something that only a man can give me, right? So he then puts his hands like this, and he's crying. She's looking at you, and so we understand. He's like, what a weirdo. she goes. His friend comes back. See that he's crying. So what happened? He said, I just missed my kids. He said, no. We've only been gone for 2 days. What's happened? And he explained. His friend started crying. He said, why are you crying? He said, if that was me, I don't think I would have done what you did. Then they went to Hajj, and in Mina, he fell asleep. He had a dream, and he saw a beautiful man. He said, who are you? He said, I'm Yusuf. He said, Yusuf alayhi salam? He said, yes. He said, how amazing is your story with Zuleika? And Yusuf alayhi salam said, how amazing was your story at Abwa? Dhikrun fi dunya wal akhirah, until the end of time. This is written in the pages of our tradition. You understand? Allah honors you in this world. One of the 7 in the shade, under the shade of the Arsh of Allah is that quality of Yusuf alayhi salam. It's a win-win situation. Now look, there's sisters who are listening as well. For our dear sisters, on behalf of men, sorry, we're stupid. Okay, men are stupid. Okay, generally we are. Illa masha'Allah. But look, brothers, listen to this for the sake of your sisters. If this eye just looks here and there, okay, and you're addicted to this inappropriate material, you're setting this as a standard for your wives, and it's creating this massive sense of lack of self-security and self-worth and anxiety, okay? And it's not normal, okay? It's not normal. Look, it's impossible to look stunningly beautiful all the time. It's impossible, okay? beauty, Allah's created every human being inherently beautiful. Inherently beautiful. As long as you're healthy, inshallah, you know, you're beautiful. Okay, and Allah's made that. And if you can't see it, you have a problem with Allah's creation. Okay, so brothers, remember this. Okay, don't do this to your women. And women folk, the sisters who are listening, you don't need to validate yourself by men. Okay, you validate yourself from within. You validate yourself with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And your standard, like we're talking about, is the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And what do our ulama say? Especially for our women folk, your standard are the Sahabiyat, Ummahat al-Mu'mineen, the children of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and especially who? Fatima radiallahu anha. You know, when she was in her illness where she passed away, before she passed away, she said to her family, she said, you know the kafan, it's quite tight, isn't it? You can see the contours of your body. What she said to her friends and family was that when I die, because in those days it was just kafan and they carry you like they do in Saudi right now. You know, in Muslim countries there's no coffin. But what she said, I'm worried about the contours of my body being seen, so put a box so that nobody can see me. That's the standard. Fatima radiallahu anha is the standard, you know, that you want to go for. And you know, last thing I want to say is, you know, our brothers and sisters, you know, look after yourselves. What do I mean by that? You're the only person that's halal for your wife to look at, and vice versa. Look after yourself. Don't be like that guy or that girl where the only time you look beautiful is when it was your wedding and when you go to everybody else's wedding. That's the only time you look beautiful. Don't be that person. Okay? Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, so look after yourself. You know, eat well, exercise, look after your mental health. You know, and Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu and Rabi'ah, they were both known that every night they would beautify themselves for their spouse. They would beautify themselves. They'd go to their spouse and ask them, Alaka haja? You understand? They would look after themselves and do that. Otherwise, what, you know, most of us, apart from our wedding day, the rest of the time we look like Shrek. And it's not a nice thing to look at. Understand? Look after yourself. You know when COVID happened, Shaykh, I did this thing where, okay, there's got to be benefits. There has to be benefits. Or as dark, you know, period as it was, and it still is, it's still quite bad. What are the benefits? And one of the benefits was, alhamdulillah, no more weddings. So don't invite me, okay? I'll come to the nikah in the masjid, but I ain't doing it. We'll stop there, inshallah. If I said something inappropriate in the masjid, I apologize. But brothers, you know, do take this seriously, because it's one of the biggest blockers. You can't think about having qurb with Allah. You can't think about having khushu and khudur in your salah or your dhikr if you're not controlling this. We'll stop there, inshallah. Some more great ulama have come. Wa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Jazakallah, doctor. Doctor Sahab, mashallah, was mentioning nazar-e-bad. हजरत मौलाना हाशिम साहब की बहुत अच्छी किताब है बदनजरी और उसका इलाज, उसको खरीदना चाहिए, पढ़ना चाहिए। बहुत शुरू में हजरत ने लिखी थी और हजरत शेख रहमतुल्लाह अलैह भी, जहाँ तक मुझे याद पड़ता है, बहुत खुश हुई थी इस किताब के लिखने से। तो इसको आप खरीदें, उसका मुताला करें, बहुत फ़ायदा होगा। मैं भी पढ़ने के ज़माने में उसको पढ़ा था, एक दफ़े दो दफ़े, फिर मौलाना साहब ने उसमें कुछ इजाफा भी किया, अच्छे अच्छे किस्से भी उसमें लिखे, उसमें सब हदीसें भी लिखी हैं। लानल्लाहु अन्नाज़िर वल मंज़ूर इलैहि, अल्लाह की लानत जाती है उस पर जो ऐसी गलत चीज़ें देखता है और उस पर भी जिसको देखा जाता है। तो नज़र की हिफाजत तो बहुत ज़रूरी है। नज़रु सहमुन मस्मूमुन मिन सिहाम इब्लीस, नज़र तो इब्लीस के जहरीले पॉइजनस तीरों में से एक तीर है, तुम्हारे दिल को पॉइजन कर देता है इब्लीस इस नज़र के जरिया। और इस ज़माने में ये नज़र बद जो है बहुत ख़ता करती है। हज़रत मौलाना क़ादी अमीर अहमद साहब, हज़रत शेख रहमतुल्लाहि अलैह के खलीफा, यहाँ तशरीफ़ लाए थे, ज़करिया मस्जिद में बयान किया था पुरानी। उन्होंने कई ज़माने में 3 गुनाह बहुत आम हैं: बदगुमानी, बदजुबानी اور بد نظری. بدگمانی دوسروں کے بارے میں برے خیالات, اور جب بدگمانی ہوتی ہے تو بد زبانی ہوتی ہے, کیونکہ بات دوسرے کے بارے میں بدگمانی which is going to result in بد زبانی. You're going to do غیبت, slander, accuse, تہمت. And number 3 he said بد نظری. بد نظری عوام تو عوام, حضرت شیخ used to say عوام تو عوام, خواص بھی اس میں مبتلا ہے, let alone عوام general public, even the ulama and the khawas are also مبتلا in this. May Allah protect us. تو اس لیے نظر کی حفاظت بہت ضروری ہے, بہت ضروری ہے, بہت ضروری ہے. اپنی حفاظت کرو, غلط سلط چیزیں مت دیکھو, اور نظر نیچی کر لو, جھکا لو, دوسری طرف دیکھ لو. حکیم اختر صاحب رحمۃ اللہ علیہ یہاں تشریف لاتے تھے تو اکثر ان کا بیان اسی ٹاپک پر ہوتا تھا, نگاہ کی حفاظت, نگاہ کی حفاظت. یہ نگاہ جو ہے نا, اس سے ہم جو دیکھتے ہیں وہ سیدھا کہاں اترتا ہے, دل میں. نگاہ کی مثال ایسی ہے جیسے فنل, وہ تیل ڈالنے کی کپی ہوتی ہے نا, تو اس کا اوپر سے منہ بڑا ہوتا ہے اور نیچے لمبی ڈنڈی ہوتی ہے, تو اس میں تیل ڈالتے ہیں تو چھوٹی بوتل میں تیل جاتا ہے. بس یہ آنکھ اور کان, یہ دونوں فنل کی طرح سے ہیں. جو کچھ آنکھ دیکھتی ہے, جو کچھ کان سنتا ہے, وہ سیدھا دل میں اترتا ہے. تو آپ کا دل وہی بنے گا جو آپ آنکھ سے دیکھیں گے اور جو کان سے سنیں گے. اس لیے آنکھ کا بھی غلط استعمال مت کرو, کان کا بھی غلط استعمال کرو, تاکہ غلط چیز تمہارے دل میں جائے ہی نہ, دل تمہارا محفوظ رہے. اس لیے حضرت مولانا ہمارے ڈاکٹر زکریا گوگا صاحب نے بیان کیا. ماشاءاللہ ڈاکٹر صاحب جی پی ہیں مانچسٹر میں, ہمارے دوست ہیں, دارالعلوم آیا کرتے تھے فری ٹائم میں حضرت کے پاس, اور حضرت کو بھی ان سے بہت انسیت تھی, اور حضرت بھی ان پر اچھی توجہ کرتے تھے. ماشاءاللہ ان کو بہت چیزیں یاد ہیں حضرت کی. کہہ رہے تھے اپنے نفس کو نام دینا چاہیے, تو مجھے حضرت رحمۃ اللہ علیہ کی بات آئی. حضرت رحمۃ اللہ علیہ ایک بیان میں فرماتے ہیں کہ یہ نفس جو ہے نا, یہ ہمارا جسم جو ہے نا, جسم یہ بھاڑے کا ٹٹو ہے, یعنی یہ رینٹڈ ڈونکی ہے. ڈونکی کو پہلے زمانے میں رینٹ پر لیتے تھے, جیسے ہم گاڑیوں کو رینٹ پر لیتے ہیں, تو پھر اس کو برابر یوز کرتے, اس کی ٹھوس نکال دیتے تھے ڈونکی کی, جیسے ہم گاڑیوں کی ٹھوس نکال دیتے ہیں. تو وہ کہتے ہیں یہ ہماری باڈی جو ہے نا, یہ بھاڑے کا ٹٹو ہے, اسے خوب کام لو, بہت عبادت کرو, بہت اس کو جگائے بھی رکھو, بزی رکھو, بزی رکھو, بزی رکھو, تاکہ اس کو الٹی سیدھی چیزیں سوجے ہی نہیں اس کو. اللہ ہمارے جوان نسلوں کی حفاظت فرمائے. یہ ان کے بیان کا خلاصہ مرچ مسالے کے ساتھ. اب اس کے بعد ہم شیخ بلال کو رکھنے والے تھے, لیکن میں نے سوچا بھائی عبدالحد کو ذرا بلا لیتے ہیں, کیونکہ ان کا ٹاپک بھی ذرا ڈرگز کے بارے میں یہ ہم کو بتائیں گے کہ بھئی کچھ اسٹیٹسٹکس وغیرہ سمجھائیں گے. یہ جماعت میں آئے ہوئے ہیں, لندن میں رہتے ہیں بھائی عبدالحد, تو وہاں سے جماعت میں زکریا میں آئے ہیں. تو میں نے ان کو کہا کہ تم یہاں آؤ, 5 منٹ ذرا ڈرگز کے بارے میں بچوں کو, جوان بچوں کو بتاؤ. آ جاؤ بھائی عبدالحد. بسم اللہ.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Jazakallah to Hazrat and everybody at Masjid Ashrafia. And also Ma'ami Sahib Mahmoud Bhai was given the ijazat to come over here. Auzu billahi minash shaitani rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Sorry, it's the first time I'm giving a speech, so a bit nervous. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Just before I start, my name is Abdul ibn Abdul Samad Musa Ali Bhai. My late father, may Allah grant him Jannah al-Firdaus, and my late mother, who's recently passed away a couple of months ago. I'm a former drug addict. A long journey, mashallah, a long journey. Alhamdulillah, great blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, du'as of my parents, Shaykh, Abdul, and other people in the community. I had a long journey in my drug addiction. But I just want to talk to you brothers and youngsters especially, and the elders and the community. It's very important, we have to educate ourselves. We have to educate ourselves. If we don't educate ourselves in drugs, it's going to be a big problem. So before I start, I just want to read something. Where I went to my rehab in South Africa. So I want to read something. It's important that I start off with this. It's a day-top philosophy. I am here. I am here because there is no refuge, finally, from myself, until I confront myself in the eyes and hearts of others. I am running. I am running until I suffer them to share my secrets. I have no safety from them, afraid to be known. I can know neither myself nor any other. I will be alone. Where else but in my common ground can I find such a mirror? Here, together, I can at last appear clearly to myself, not as a giant of my dreams, nor the dwarf of my fears, but as a person, part of a whole, with my share in its purpose. In this ground, I can take root and grow, not alone anymore in death, but alive to myself and to one more, very short one. Who is an addict? Very important, brothers. Who is an addict? Most of us do not have to think twice about this question. Most of us do not have to think twice about this question. We know our whole life and thinking was centered in drugs in one form or another. The getting and using and finding ways and means to get more. We live to use and use to live. We very simply, an addict is a man or a woman whose life is controlled by drugs. We are people in the grip of continuing and progressive illness whose ends are always the same: jail, institution, or death. First and foremost, the word drugs. If I ask you, brothers, what the word drug means, can anybody tell me? Anyone? Alhamdulillah, I mean, sorry. Okay. Anything else? Anyone else?
An intoxicating addictive substance.
All right. Alhamdulillah. Anyone else? Alhamdulillah. MashaAllah, you brothers are right. Alhamdulillah. Intoxication, substance. The word drugs means devil's revenge upon God's servant. D-R-U-G-S. Look at the deep meaning behind that, my dear respected brothers and elders. First and foremost, in our Muslim community, there's no support. We need support in every day, in every locality, to be opened. Drug rehab family support group. We have to open this. Parents feel embarrassed to go to a support group. Why? Why do they feel embarrassed? So people must see, oh, this person's car's here, this person's car's here. Oh, something's happening here. They're in a support group. They might think, oh, his son might be on drugs, or his daughter might be on drugs, or someone, family members might be in drugs. No, my dear respected brothers, it's education. We have to educate ourselves in this support group. Very, very important. Okay, we not seem to understand, drug is a disease. It can happen to anyone. In my time in South Africa, my dear respected brothers, there was an elder, 72 years old. Wallahi, 72 years old. He was my room partner. Crack cocaine addict, a multi-millionaire. Now I tell him, I goes, Chacha, what are you doing? Come on, man, we're here for a reason. Rehab is not an event, it's a process. Wallahi, it's a process. You get a 12-step program, you need to do your 12-step program. There's 75 million users, dear respected brothers, 75 million users in the world of drugs. Think about it, 75 million and growing. 270,000 in the UK, and majority are Muslims. Wallahi. You know, I had to work hard on my rehab. I'm a recovering addict for life. In the eyes of dunya, I'm a recovering addict. In the eyes of Allah, I'm not a recovering addict. Allah, when He created us, He created us pure. We came pure into this world. We were full of disease. This world is full of disease. It's going to finish our generation. The next generation to come, wallahi, the next generation to come is going to be full of drug addicts. Every second household in the UK, has got a drug addict. There was this brother, a multi-millionaire, who walked into the rehab center. You know, he walked in, he had so much. And the director, Hafiz Muhammad Rafiq Saab, has been working there for 20 years. It's called Crescent of Hope. Okay, I was sent to the rehab from UK Leicester by Maulana Hafiz Abdul Budi, who runs Spinney Hill drug rehab support group. I'm a peer mentor there now, my dear respected brothers. I was there just over a year ago. Wallahi. And when I went to this rehab center, I had to think, man, I'm here, but I got to take a step back. These guys are on the next level. You know, I'm here for my own Islah. When we go to Jamaat, you're there for your own Islah. When you go to a certain place, when you go to studies, you go for your own Islah. You're doing it for yourself. You're not doing it for anyone else. I had to take a step back. I had to earn my respect there. Wallahi, I had to earn my respect there. Rafiq Bhai is a person, knowledge. We can say muftis, alims, qadis, alhamdulillah. This Rafiq Bhai, Hafiz Muhammad Mayat, you can say he's the mufti of drugs. He knows everything about drugs, A to Z. Khair, let me go on. 95% of the people, 95% of the patients relapse because the family don't know how to deal with it. The family doesn't know. They will say, or if the community in the area, you say, oh, I told drug addict, stay away from him. They won't understand what a drug addict goes through, my dear respected brothers. None of you, somebody who hasn't taken drugs, will not understand what a drug addict goes through. They need help. Wallahi, they need help. Only an addict will understand an addict. Seriously. Drug addiction is a kind of illness which a family member can have. Anyone can have it. In my time over there, you see alims coming there. Ulamas, alims. I had two youngsters, two brothers, nephews of Hashim Amla, the South African cricketer. You know, so it makes you think, you know, you get the best of the best. You know, there was one, sorry for taking extra time. There was one brother who was an addict, and he was a professional. So anyway, I'm not sure what field he was in. I think he might have been an accountant, a very qualified accountant, and he became a drug addict, and you know, he came into Magaliesberg Health Center in South Africa, and he comes in, and you know, he stayed there for a long time. Now Rafiq, by what he does, his job is basically helping the drug addicts. There's got counselors there, all professionals there. There's got doctors there. We go through our detox, etc. We go through our 12-step program. Okay. Now, basically, he after all of it, 100 patients come there, 100, and that's anyone, everyone. You know, the youngest child to come in that rehab center was 6 years old on crack cocaine. Okay. So it makes you think. The youngest child to come in that rehab center was 7 years old on crystal meth. If anybody knows about crystal meth, I'm not sure if it's here in this country. I've seen a movie about it. It's a movie called Ellen Packy's that they show us in the rehab center. It's a true story. But this drug is such that when this brother came in, you know, his story was ajib, that, you know, him and his wife, you know, ended up in drugs, and they ended, you know, they were sleeping in crack houses and here and there and everywhere. A baby was born, you know, a baby was born, and she never even drank her mother's milk. You know, people used to give people, neighbors and that, you know. give milk and food to her. And basically, at the age, she grew up 13, 14, 15. She came to the rehab center. And Rafiq Bey, he unites families back together, people on drug addiction and everything. Fed, she came in. So Rafiq Bey's speaking to her, goes, Ben, she became older, she goes, Ben, your father's here, blah, blah. He goes, look, don't tell me anything about my father. Don't tell me anything. So Rafiq Bey's a bit stunned, He goes, why? Why? She goes, I've seen it all. I was born in a crack house. I've seen my mother, my father, my mother goes out, she sells her body, perform lives on stage. My father goes out for 500 rand. Hey man, what is this? 500 rand, 25 quid, just for drugs. Head. So he's telling, she's telling Rafiq Bey that this is it. I've seen everything. So he goes, what do you want, Ben? What do you want? She goes, you know what I want? 16 years. Imagine this. All I need is a hug from my father. All I want was a hug from my father. Even Rafiq Bey started crying. You can imagine, my dear respected brothers, there was a Muslim sister. She's on drugs so much, she stabbed her father 32 times. My dear respected brothers and elders, if we don't wake up now, wallahi, it's going to be too late. It's going to be too late. There's 3 stages. Before I finish, there's 3 stages of addiction. One is the experimental stage, where a person will start off with marijuana, then he will try alcohol, then they will try crack cocaine, heroin, another substance. What will happen? This is the experimental stage. Try this, try this, try this, try this. They'll make a choice. Marijuana, crack cocaine, heroin, whatever. Okay, they'll make a choice. And my choice of drug was crack. I was a crack user. Okay, so anyway, they'll make a choice. What will happen? They'll use it once in a while. They'll go work, all fine. They'll come over. They might not use for a few days, or a week or 2. Time will come, it become a mental thing. What will happen? They'll go work, they'll come back. I'm tired, man. I'm tired. I need something, I'll go out, £20, £30, £40, whatever it is. They'll buy it, they'll smoke the rock or whatever. They'll smoke it. That will go on for some time. Eventually, what will happen? Chronic stage will come in. What will happen in that chronic stage? The mental stage, the mind will shut down and the body will demand what it will demand. Okay, it's called a craving. And this will be everyday craving. Okay, you wake up in the morning, go and get the fix. The day won't start without a fix, without a smoke, whatever it is. And they'll go on to that on a daily basis. I've got a friend in London, wallahi. I just heard from his brother. I hope a lot of people out there to send them to South Africa and obviously work with the Spinney Hill Drug Rehab Support Group. This brother in London, I heard he's a heroin addict. He's been smoking for many, many years. And I speak to his brother on a regular basis. He tells me, he goes, Abs, he calls me Abs. So he goes, I need help, man. And I said, yeah, bro, no problem, I said, look, if Allah doesn't give up on us, who are we to give up on other people? Who are we? You should never give up, my dear respected brothers. Okay, I heard he's in such a stage, he's a heroin addict. A lot of brothers been to him, they've talked to him, the Jamaat's been there. His one word, he says, I like what I'm doing. I like what I do. Leave me to it. Okay? I heard he's such in a bad state, his leg might be getting amputated. I'm not sure when or how long. Okay? So my dear respected, we've got to understand as a community, we need to help our youth. Yeah, so this is my first, alhamdulillah, jazakallah for Hazrat. This is my first talk. I'm still in Jamaat, my 40 days. May Allah, make dua for me that Allah keeps me safe. Also, all the youngsters out there, it can happen to anyone and everyone. It's a big disease. The devil is out there. He'll play with everyone's minds. So, may Allah make it easy for me and all of yous. And inshallah, make dua that we stay safe, inshallah, in this dunya. Jazakumullah khair. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alamin.
جزاک اللہ. یہ ڈرگز میں ہے نا، بہت سے لوگ کہتے ہیں کلاس اے، کلاس بی، کلاس سی، پھر بعض جگہوں پر یہ کیا کہتے ہیں مروانا کو انہوں نے لیگل کر دیا، جیسے کینیڈا میں کہتے ہیں یہ تو سافٹ ہے، چل جاتا ہے. لیکن یاد رکھیں اسلام میں یہ کلاسیفیکیشن آف ڈرگز نہیں ہے. آل ڈرگز آر سیم، چاہے مروانا ہو، کوکین ہو، ہارڈ ہو، سافٹ ہو، کچھ بھی ہو. اینی تھنگ دیٹ انٹاکسیکیٹس دا مائنڈ از حرام. ایک شراب، some sharab, they only intoxicate you if you drink it a lot. With a little bit, you don't get intoxicated, but it's still haram. So same is the case with drugs. All drugs are haram. Next, we will call upon Hafiz Hassan Khan to render a naat. Hassan Khan, کون سی نعت پڑھو گے؟ جلدی جلدی پڑھ دو، پھر شیخ بلال کا بیان ہو جائے. جزاک اللہ. بس کون سی نظر؟ نعت پڑھ دو جلدی، نعت پڑھ دو. ٹھیک.
السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. If you could read Durud Sharif once, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. جہاں روزہ پاک خیر الورا ہے، وہ جنت نہیں ہے تو پھر اور کیا ہے. کہاں میں کہاں یہ مدینے کی گلیاں، یہ قسمت نہیں ہے تو پھر اور کیا ہے. محمد کی عظمت کو کیا پوچھتے ہو کہ وہ صاحب کعبہ کو سین ٹھہرے. محمد کی عظمت کو کیا پوچھتے ہو کہ وہ صاحب کعبہ کو سین ٹھہرے، کو سین ٹھہرے. بشر کی سرے عرش مہمان نوازی، یہ عظمت نہیں ہے تو پھر اور کیا ہے. جو آسی کو کملی میں اپنی چھپا لے، جو دشمن کو بھی زخم کھا کر دعا دے، جو آسی کو کملی میں اپنی چھپا لے، جو دشمن کو بھی زخم کھا کر دعا دے، کھا کر دعا دے. اسے اور کیا نام
دے گا زمانہ، وہ رحمت نہیں ہے تو پھر اور کیا ہے؟ قیامت کا ایک دن معین ہے لیکن ہمارے لیے ہر نفس ہے قیامت، قیامت کا ایک دن معین ہے لیکن ہمارے لیے ہر نفس یہ قیامت، نفس ہے قیامت۔ مدینے سے ہم جان ساروں کی دوری، قیامت نہیں ہے تو پھر اور کیا ہے؟ تم حسان یہ نعت کہہ تو رہے ہو، مگر یہ بھی سوچا کہ کیا کر رہے ہو؟ تم حسان یہ نعت کہہ تو رہے ہو، مگر یہ بھی سوچا کہ کیا کر رہے ہو، کیا کر رہے ہو؟ کہاں تم کہاں مد ہے ممدوح یزدان، یہ جرت نہیں ہے تو پھر اور کیا ہے؟ جہاں روزے پاک خیر الورا ہے، وہ جنت نہیں ہے تو پھر اور کیا ہے؟ جزاک اللہ خیر۔ السلام علیکم۔
وعلیکم السلام۔ ماشاء اللہ ماشاء اللہ۔
اب انشاءاللہ شیخ بلال فاروق صاحب تشریف لاتے ہیں، اپنے ملفوظات سے محمد علی صاحب کے شاگرد ہیں، وہاں ایٹرنل لائف سے فارغ ہیں، اللہ ان کی زندگی میں خوب برکت نصیب فرمائے، ان کے ملفوظات سے خوب مستفیض فرمائے، جم کر بیٹھے دھیان سے سنیں۔
بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم، الحمد للہ وحدہ والصلاة والسلام علی من لا نبی بعدہ ولا رسالۃ بعد رسالتی ولا نبوۃ بعد نبوتی ولا کتاب بعد کتابی ولا شریعت بعد شریعتی ولا معصوم بعد عصمتی ولا سنت بعد سنتی ولا امت بعد امتی، اما بعد۔ قال اللہ تعالی فی القرآن المجید والفرقان الحمید بعد اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان الرجیم، بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم۔ ان اللہ وملائکتہ یصلون علی النبی یا ایہا الذین آمنوا صلوا علیہ وسلموا تسلیما، اللہم صل علی محمد وعلی آل محمد کما صلیت علی ابراہیم وعلی آل ابراہیم انک حمید مجید، اللہم بارک علی محمد وعلی آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. Respected scholars, elders and brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Allah Almighty created the human being, and after creating this insan, Allah Almighty kept within this human a few basic needs. The basic needs in every human are 5: mat'am, mashrab, maskan, markab and manka, which basically means that every human, he needs food to eat, he needs water to drink, a house to live in, a conveyance to travel, and finally he needs to wed and get married. These are the 5 basic needs of every human that comes into this world. But over and above these 5 basic needs, my brothers, is a greater need of spirituality and guidance. And the simple reason for this is that if a person lacks the fulfillment of any other need, then his problems will only be restricted to his worldly life. So if a person lacks the fulfillment of food, then he will suffer hunger, but he will only suffer hunger for as long as he lives. If a person lacks the fulfillment of water, then he will suffer thirst, but he will only suffer thirst for as long as he lives. But if a person lacks spirituality and guidance, then his problem only begins in this world. The Arabic poet said, life has become so difficult, life has become so challenging and so frustrating, the only way to put an end to it and put a stop to it is death. So is there anybody selling death that I may purchase it off him and put an end to my misery, put an end to my depression? Brothers, the world that we live in today is such a world that you and I, and especially the youth of today, we will look up to these sporting personalities and these people who possess fame and money and wealth. And you and I will consider this as success. When the youth of today, they see this individual who has money and fame and who has a status in society, when they see him upload a picture to his social platforms, when they see him upload a picture to his Instagram or Snapchat with a big smile upon his face as he sits in his mansion with his boys around him, when the youth of today see this, then they begin to think this is the life. I wish I could be in his shoes. I wish I could be living the life that he is living. But the reality is we have only seen that picture. Only Allah knows what this man was going through before that picture and what he was going through after that picture, and how many attempts it took for him to choose which picture he liked before he uploaded it. Because after that picture was uploaded and that picture was taken, then that smile of his also disappeared. Because that smile was only there to show the world. But truly he wasn't happy. He wasn't satisfied. Reality is these very people that we look up to are the very same individuals that will come out and say, for the past 5 years I've been going through depression. For the past 2-3 years I've had suicidal thoughts. And then my young brothers like you're the one who I want to be like. I work day and night so I can be in your shoes, and you're telling me you're going through depression? You're telling me you're having suicidal thoughts? But then the reality is when one opens the Quran and he begins to read the words of Allah Almighty, then he comes to understand that indeed what my Allah said is the truth. That it is only with His remembrance and only with His zikr will these hearts find peace and contentment. You can give this heart whatever you want besides Allah, but it will never be content. It will never be happy. But when you give it Allah, then all of a sudden this heart is content and you yourself become happy. The Urdu poet said something very profound which highlights the point that I'm trying to get across. He said that if a person lacks spirituality and guidance, then never mind the difficulties he goes through in this world, his actual problem begins the day he closes his eyes, where he said, "Ab to gabara ke ye kehte hai ki mar jayenge." अब तो घबरा के ये कहते हैं कि मर जाएंगे, मर की भी चैन ना पाया तो किधर जाएंगे. Now in the fit of desperation, he says, it was better that I died than to live a life of depression. It was better that death came to me. But then he says, if you were to die and you discover that your abode was the fire of hell, you discover that your abode was Jahannam, then where are you going to go? Then where are you going to hide? Because after death, there's no death again. You're not going to die again. It's either a life of eternal happiness and bliss, or it's either the punishment and the azab of Allah. There's no other way out. There's no third option. This is why, my brothers, the greatest need for insan and the greatest need for you and I is the need for spirituality and guidance. And the formula of acquiring this, my brothers, is to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to turn to Allah Almighty. As how much my Allah loves it when His servants come before Him, when His servants humble themselves before Him. How near and dear this is to Allah Almighty, and how beloved this is to Allah, that Allah begins to do fakhr. Okay, oh angels, you said this insan was going to wrong me. You said this insan was going to go against me. But look at the way he calls upon me. Look at the way he praises me. Look at the way he remembers me. I mean, only if we knew how dear and near you and I were to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That on one occasion, Allah Almighty said to the likes of Sayyidina Dawood, Ki, O Dawood, if my disobedient slaves, those who neglect me, those who have never turned to me, and those who from the day their mother has given them birth have never prostrated down before me, if these slaves of mine were to know how much love I have for them, then, O Dawood, their body parts would burst. Dawood, if this is the love I have for my disobedient slaves, for those who neglect me and those who have never turned to me, then, O Dawood, can you imagine the love your Allah has for those servants who worship Him, for those servants who praise Him, for those servants who glorify Him? Allah, brothers, if you have Allah, then you have everything. And if you've lost my Allah, then you've lost everything. जिसने अल्लाह को पा लिया उसने सब कुछ पा लिया, और जिसने अल्लाह को खो दिया गोया कि उसने सब कुछ खो दिया. You can have the dunya at your feet, you can be the richest of and the wealthiest of all, but if you don't have my Allah, then Allah's qasam, you have nothing. And you can be a beggar on the street who has no one, who has nothing, but if you have Allah, then by Allah you have everything. And this is what we need to understand. There was once a king who was walking, and behind him was an entourage of people, a cavalcade of people. And as he walked through the streets, obviously now because he had his boys around him, so he walked with his chest out, pride and arrogance kicked in, कि I am something. And there was a beggar at the side of the street. So now when he seen this beggar, he then, to make himself feel a bit good, and to make his boys laugh around him, he then asked his beggar, "Ki, oh beggar, how's life treating you?" So obviously the response he wanted, "Ki, yeah, look at my state. Oh king, have some mercy, have some karam and rahmah upon me." But his beggar turned around to the king and he said, "Oh king, at times my life is like yours, and at times my life is better than yours." So now the king's people, they looked at the king and they said, "Oh king, he's probably forgotten who you are. He doesn't realize who he's talking to." So the king said, "Do you know who I am?" He said, "Yes, I recognize you. You're a king." So the king said, "If that's the case, that you know who I am, then how can you say that your life is like mine, let alone better to mine?" So he said, "Oh king, when you go to sleep in your palace, when you go to sleep in this palace of yours, and you sleep upon your comfy bed, upon your comfy mattress with your comfy pillows around you, and there are guards at your door. O king, when your eyes close, then you forget you're sleeping in a palace. You forget you're sleeping on a comfy bed. You forget there's guards at the door protecting you. And O king, when I go to sleep on the streets, and a rock becomes my pillow, the heavens above me become my blankets, and the earth beneath me becomes my mattress. When my eyes close, then, O king, I also forget where I am. And because now I have forgotten where I am and you have forgotten where you are, then at that point, both of our lives are the same. What's different between my life and your life? You've forgotten and I've forgotten. You've forgotten you're sleeping in a palace. I've forgotten that I'm sleeping on the streets. And oh King, when you're still sleeping and snoring away, and you're dreaming about this and dreaming about that, and then I stand up and I begin to converse with my Allah. I stand up and I begin to have a dialogue with Allah. And I'm getting an ecstasy and a buzz and a thrill out of it. Then, oh King, at that point, by Allah, my life is far better than yours. My life then is far better than yours. Allah, brothers, understand. Get the cry of our heart must be, oh my Allah, I want you and nothing else. I need you and nothing else. Because when I have you, then I have everything. And if I've lost you, then I've lost everything. The poet said, कोई मुझसे पूछे मैं क्या मांगता हूँ, मैं अपने खुदा से खुदा ही मांगता हूँ, वो हो जाए मेरा मैं हो जाऊं उसका, यही रात दिन दुआ मांगता हूँ. Oh my Allah, you become mine, let me become yours. This is all I desire, this is all I ask for. Allah is so merciful that He looks for excuses to forgive His servants. He looks for excuses to give you and I. But we don't even give Him an excuse. How is Allah, His mercy is such that idol worshipper who called upon his idol his entire life, Ya Sanam, Ya Sanam, Ya Sanam. And one night calling upon his idol with the slip of a tongue, he took the glorious name of Allah Almighty, Ya Samad. And upon his one call, how the heavens began to shake. Oh my Allah responded, Labbaik Ya Abadi. Oh my servant, ask for what you wish. Ask for what you desire. So Jibreel Amin said, Allah, He is not calling you. Your name was taken by mistake. It was taken with the slip of a tongue. And my Allah said, oh Jibreel, whether by purpose, whether by mistake, is it not my name He took? Today, if I don't respond to Him, then what's the difference between me and that idol? If I don't answer His call, then what's the difference between me and that idol He called upon for the rest of his life? Oh, people, understand how dear and near you are to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Understand how close you are to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. You know, the world will say you've wronged so much and you've sinned so much, there isn't no way Allah is going to forgive you. Or you've transgressed the limits of Allah too much. But these are the waswasi from the devil, because he knows he can't go back. He knows he can't go. And because he knows, my brother, he wants you to think the same. He wants you to think exactly the same, that there's no way Allah is going to forgive you. The poet said, Tu bejaan sa patthar bhi nahi hai, tu farishta o payambar bhi nahi hai, tu hilam ka chashma o samandar bhi nahi hai, par tu apni Rabb ki nigahon mein kamtar bhi nahi hai. Tu jo kuch hai apni hadon ko pehchan, tu Rahman ki pakar se bahir bhi nahi hai. Wherever you are, however sinful you may be, know that you are not far from the mercy of Allah Almighty. Know that my Allah says, O insan, whenever you come, your Allah is ready, waiting to accept your forgiveness, waiting to embrace you. अरे वो तो कहता है दिन में आओ या रात में आओ, जवानी में आओ या बुढ़ापे में आओ, लेकिन आओ तो सही, मुझसे मांगो तो सही, जोली फैलाओ तो सही, आंसू बहाओ तो सही, और तुम फिर देखना तुम्हारा रब तुम्हें कैसे तुम्हारे गुनाहों को माफ करता है. Such is the mercy of Allah Almighty, that on one occasion, in the time of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, it hadn't rained for a long period of time. So the people came to Musa and said, Oh Musa, make dua to Allah that it rains. Our crops are dying, our children are crying, our animals are dying. Oh Musa, make dua, we need the rain to come. So Sayyidina Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, he lifted his hands and he asked Allah for rain. So Allah then said to Musa, O Musa, there is an individual amongst you who has disobeyed me for 40 years of his life. O Musa, because of his disobedience, I have deprived you all of rain. Until this man doesn't leave you and doesn't leave the city, no rain is going to come. So Sayyidina Musa then gathered the people of the village and he said to the people, O people, there is this man amongst you who has disobeyed Allah for so long. Whoever you are, you have deprived of all of us of rain. Please leave the gathering. It will not be because of you Allah's azab and punishment comes upon all of us. Now everyone in this gathering is looking here and there. Okay, who is this individual? Whoever you are, please just leave. Don't let Allah's azab come upon all of us just because of your wrong. And here this man stood amongst them. And now his heart rate begins to increase. Now he's looking left and right. Okay, what do I do? If I leave this gathering, then everyone will know what a sinner I am, what a wrongdoer I am. And people will say it was because of me Allah deprived us all of us rain. And if I don't leave this gathering, then no rain is going to come. And because of me, Allah will deprive everyone. So now in his hearts of hearts, he begins to converse with Allah. He begins to speak with Allah. Now understand, he's not speaking to Allah because he wants to make sincere tawbah and he wants to abandon his life of evil. No. Now up to majburi thi, this was the only way out for him. Now when man has nobody else to turn to, then he turns to Allah. When the ship's about to sink, then even an atheist calls out, oh my God, because he knows there's only a supreme being to turn to, and that's none other than Allah Almighty. So now in his hearts of hearts, he begins to converse with Allah. Oh my Allah, for 40 years of my life, you hid my wrong. For 40 years of my life, you put a veil over my wrong. Oh my Allah, I ask you, conceal my wrong today. Hide my wrong today. Don't let it be everyone knows of my sins. Don't let it be everyone says, okay, it was because of him Allah deprived us all of us of rain. Oh my Allah, if you do this much for me, then I ask you and I say to you, oh my Allah, I will abandon my life of wrong and I will never again go to evil. He is still conversing with Allah Almighty when all of a sudden the heavens begin to open and rain begins to descend. So people look at Musa and say, Musa, nobody's left. And the rain has come in abundance. So Musa alayhi salam asked Allah, the condition was until this man doesn't leave, no rain is going to come. Well Allah, the man hasn't left and rain has come in abundance. Oh Allah, why have you sent the rain? So my Allah said, Arey Musa, jiski khatir barish roki thi, ab uski khatir barish bhej di. Oh Musa, that very individual, because of whom I had stopped the rain, is now the very individual because I have descended my mercy. Oh Musa then asked, Ya Allah, tell me who this individual is. So my Allah said, Arey Musa, जब मेरा दुश्मन था मैंने आपको नहीं बताया, अब तो मेरा यार और दोस्त बन चुका है, मैं आपको कैसे बताऊं? Oh Musa, when he was an enemy of mine, I didn't tell you. Now he's become a beloved of mine. Now he's become a friend of mine. Oh Musa, how can I tell you? Brothers, understand, when these hearts are given to Allah, then even a man, when difficulty befalls him, then even at times like that, he feels at ease and at peace. When Sahaba Kiram surrendered before Allah Almighty, and they gave their hearts to Allah Almighty, then how at times of difficulty and hardship, Allah Almighty paved the way for them. That even death and dying became beloved to them. Even living this world became beloved to them. Not today, everyone fears death. Everyone is afraid, nobody wants to die. When my mother goes, when my father goes, I begin to cry. And I cry, why? Because they've gone and I'm still here. And I think they've gone and I'm lucky that I'm still alive. How lucky I should be crying that they've gone to a better place and I've been left here. I should be crying if they've gone to meet Allah and I'm still left in this world. When the likes of Hussein radiyallahu anhu was told in Karbala, O Hussein, we will sever your head from your shoulders. Then with a smile on his face, he said, Abil mawti tukhawifuni. You're trying to frighten me of death. You're trying to frighten Hussein of death. Maut to mere Rabb se mulaqat ka naam hai. Death is the name. The reality behind is where Hussein gets to meet his Allah. The reality behind it is where Hussein gets to meet his Khaliq al-Malik. And you are trying to frighten Hussein of death. Allah, brother, understand. When these Sahaba surrendered before Allah Almighty and they gave their everything to Allah, then they were not going to surrender before anyone else. Because they have submitted to Allah Almighty, they were not going to bow down before anyone else. And this is why we see when the likes of Sayyidina Bilal radiyallahu anh would be dragged by Umayyah, when the sun was at his hottest, and he would be dragged and he was made to lie down he would be made to lie down on the sand of Arabia. Such heat that one struggles to walk upon, one struggles to put his feet upon, and yet they would make him lie down upon this heat. And then the Umayyah would come, and his individuals would come, and they would begin to whip the likes of Sayyidina Bilal, and they would whip him by day and they would whip him by night. The ones whipping would get tired of whipping. What to say of Bilal? He would not get tired of saying Ahad, Ahad, Ahad. There is only one Allah, there is only one Allah. Then they would come and they would place an armor upon him. So now he burns even more and he feels the heat even more. And then they would come and they would place a rock upon his chest. And then Umayyah would say to him, "Oh Bilal, denounce the religion of Muhammad. Oh Bilal, say you believe in Lat and Uzza. Oh Bilal, please just say you believe in Lat and Uzza. Believe whatever you want in your heart, but with your tongue just say it. So people know you've surrendered. So people know you've given in. So people know and people think that he's left the deen of Muhammad." And Bilal will respond, "By Allah, such words cannot come upon the tongue of Sayyidina Bilal." And he will carry on saying, "Ahad, Ahad, Ahad." My brothers, because his heart was connected to Allah and he had submitted before Allah, he was not going to submit before anyone else. The likes of Sayyidina Khabbab radiyallahu anh, when he was made to walk on hot charcoal, he said to the likes of Sayyidina Umar, they will lay out hot charcoal and then they would take the body of Khabbab and they would make me lie down, and then they would come and they would stand upon the body of Khabbab. So I'm unable to move. I'm unable to get up. So my back burns and I feel the heat. Oh Umar, what do you think put out the fire? By Allah, it was the blood and the pus that flowed from the back of Sayyidina Khabbab that put out the fire. Oh Umar, it wasn't water. But by Allah, I swear, these men received ecstasy when they went through this difficulty. And you and I won't understand. You and I won't comprehend. Because they submitted to Allah in such a way that their family members meant nothing. Their family members, their mothers, their fathers meant nothing. They were ready to live for this deen and die for this deen. They were ready to give everything in the honor of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. To such an extent when my Nabi would tell them, go and spread the deen of Allah. Go and convey the message of Allah. Then how these Sahaba would go and they would travel the world conveying the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, conveying the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they would go and lift the banner of Islam, and they will go and they were prepared to leave the company of Rasulullah. They were prepared to leave Madinatul Munawwara. Allah, brothers, understand that these are Sahaba Kiram. Today the sad reality is we, you and I, and the youngsters of today and the youth of today, they know more in regards to a celebrity and a football player. They know more of the sporting personalities of the world than they do regarding the lives of Sahaba Kiram. Halaki, these were those individuals who gave their lives so this deen could reach you and I, who sacrificed everything so Islam could reach you and I, who gave up everything so this Quran could reach you and I. And today we know more regarding the lives of others than the life of Sahaba Kiram. What didn't these Sahaba go through? What difficulty didn't they go through? What sacrifices didn't they possess and didn't they give to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for this cause? Wallah, when you read the stories of Sahaba, you understand that the sacrifices they gave, nobody else could have given. How that woman comes in the presence of my Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and says, "Ya Rasulullah, people are bringing treasures before you. People are bringing gifts before your feet. Ya Rasulullah, I'm a poor woman. I possess nothing. I have nothing. Ya Rasulullah, the only thing I have of value is this small child of mine. Ya Rasulullah, I beg you, take this small child of mine and use him as a shield. When the arrows come before you, then put my son in the way. When the arrows come from behind you, then put my son in the way. Ya Rasulullah, I can bear harm coming to him. But by Allah, I cannot bear thorn pricking you.
If he is to die, I can still live. But if I hear harm has come to you, then Ya Rasulullah, my life has come to an end. What these Sahaba went through, my brothers, and how much they sacrificed, so this deen could reach you and I, so this Quran could reach you and I. And today we forget about them. Today we forget about their lives. Today my son, when he is asked about a sporting personality or a celebrity, I mean, just mention football to him and he'll get started himself. You won't even have to give him encouragement. He'll tell you about what team he sports, what football player he likes. He'll tell you about the wife of that individual. He'll tell you about the children of that individual. He'll tell you how much he's worth. But why is it when it comes to Sahaba, that very individual now can't speak? Ask him about the life of Abu Bakr and he goes quiet. नाम तो उसका रखा अबू बकर, नाम तो उसका रखा सिद्दीक, लेकिन सिद्दीक या कब्र के बारे उसको क्या मालूम? नाम तो रखा फारूक, लेकिन फारूक आजम के बारे उसको क्या मालूम? रखा नाम तो उसका उस्मान, लेकिन जिन्नोरैन के बारे उसको क्या मालूम? You kept his name Ali, but what does he know regarding the lion of Allah? Allah, the Qurbani these Sahaba gave, man's life can come to an end, but praise cannot be given to these individuals. How they sacrificed everything. They were ready to leave the company of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now how difficult it must have been for Sahaba to leave the company of my Nabi, to leave the city of Madinatul Munawwara and go and spread this deen. Today you and I go Medina, and after we stay there a few days, then how our hearts become so attached to the city that one struggles to leave. He doesn't want to leave the company of Rasulullah. He doesn't want to leave the city of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You and I feel attached, but what connection do we have to the Nabi of Allah compared to what Sahaba Kiram had? They sat with him daily. They seen him daily. But even then they were ready to go and travel the corners of the earth to convey the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These very Sahaba, when my Nabi said to the likes of Sayyidina Muaz, Ki O Muaz, go to Yemen and spread the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala there, then how he was ready to go. Oh my Nabi then said to him, O Muaz, know upon your return, you will come back, you will see the city of Medina, but you will not see Muhammad. You will see the city of Medina, but you will not see your beloved. Wallah, imagine what Muaz radiyallahu anhu must have gone through. Ya Rasulullah, you're telling me, I will leave Medina and I will go and convey the message of Allah, I'm ready to do. But then you're telling me I will come back and I won't see you. You're telling me I will come back and I won't see my beloved. But how he was ready to go? Because he knew this deen had to travel the corners of the earth so you and I could have Islam. So Islam could reach you and I. And how they went. And when Sayyidina Muaz then comes back and he enters the city of Medina and he comes in Masjid Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, then how he doesn't see the Nabi of Allah and he sees the grave of Rasulullah. Then how he sits and he weeps like a child weeps. He cries like a child cries, remembering the good old days. Allah, brother, these Sahaba travel. The Prophet says, Di azan kabhi yo Rab ki gali saw mein, kabhi ye fariqa ki tabte hue sehraw mein, dasht to dasht hai, sehra bina chore humne, behri zulamat mein dora diye gore humne, शांखों में ना जजती थी जहां तारों की, कलिमा पढ़ते थे हम शौ में तलवारों की, तुझसे सरकश हुआ कोई तो बिगड़ जाते थे, देख क्या चीजें हम धूप से लड़ जाते थे, नक्श तौहीद का हर दिल पे बिठाया हमने, जेरे खंजर भी ये पैगाम सुनाया हमने. Where didn't Sahaba go? Conveying the message of Allah, conveying the deen of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How when they give their hearts to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they surrendered before him, then their family members meant nothing. Their lives became for Rasulullah. Their lives became defending the honor of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. You had the likes of Sayyidina Siddiq Akbar radiyallahu anh, the greatest of companions, the greatest of companions, the greatest of men to walk upon the face of this earth after Anbiya alayhimus salatu was salam. Wallah, this is that Siddiq, the likes of one Sahabi. He's walking, and by mistake he walks ahead of Abu Bakr Siddiq. So my Nabi cautioned him, Malaka ya Aba Darda. Oh Abu Darda, take it easy. Oh Abu Darda, take it easy. Just for the record, you're walking ahead of that individual who is the greatest to walk upon the face of this earth after Anbiya alayhimus salatu wassalam. This is that Siddiq Akbar. When my Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was once walking, the kuffar were talking amongst one another. We had 360 gods. And this man Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he came and he cancelled them all out. And he placed one in place of 360. My Nabi then passes by, and the kuffar of Makkah then begin to pell my Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. They then begin to stone my Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. They pelt him so much, they stone him so much. Okay, Abu Bakr Siddiq radiyallahu anhu is then told, okay, Abu Bakr, go and see what's happening to your beloved. Go and see what's happening to your Nabi. Abu Bakr Siddiq radiyallahu anhu then comes and he moves the people out of the way. And when he sees his Nabi is being stoned, when he sees his Nabi is covered in blood from head to toe, then he recites the verse of the Quran. أَتَقْتُلُونَ رَجُلًا أَن يَقُولَ رَبِّيَ اللَّهِ. अरे लोगों मेरे प्यारे नबी को क्यों मारते हो? अरे लोगों मेरे सोने नबी को क्यों मारते हो? अरे लोगों मेरे सोने मोहम्मद को क्यों मारते हो? क्या यही इसका कसूर है? क्या यही इसका जुर्म है कि वो कहता है दर दर से सर उठा दो और एक रब के सामने आकर झुका दो? क्या यही इसका कसूर है कि वो कहता है बुतों की इबादत छोड़ दो और एक अल्लाह की इबादत करने लग जाओ? He said, oh people, why do you beat my beloved? Oh people, why do you stone my beloved? Is it because he says come out the worship of idols and come in the worship of one Allah alone? Oh people, do you beat him because he says your Allah is one? Oh people, do you beat him because he says stop prostrating before idols? They then left my Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam and they began to pelt the likes of Abu Bakr Siddiq. They pelted him so much, they beat him so much. Ki Abu Bakr Siddiq was covered in blood from head to toe. Abu Bakr Siddiq became unconscious and he was then carried home by his family members. His mother then sits beside him. His father sits beside him. His family members surround him. When Abu Bakr radiyallahu anh gains consciousness, the first thing upon the tongue of Sayyidina Siddiq Akbar was what? Oh people, tell me how is the Nabi of Allah? Oh people, tell me how is the Nabi of Allah? Amma Jan, tell me how is my Nabi? इश्क नबी का दावा करना बहुत आसान है ए वाइज. इश्क नबी का दावा करना बहुत आसान है ए वाइज. लेकिन सिद्दीक जैसा आशिक बनना सबकी बस की बात नहीं. To become an ashik like Siddiq Akbar, wallah, this is the quality only some can possess. This very Abu Bakr says to his mother, Amma Jan, tell me, how is the Nabi of Allah? When his father hears this, his father frustrated and angry. He said, oh Abu Bakr, you've been beaten because of this man. This has become your state that you're covered in blood from head to toe because of this man. You became unconscious because of this very man. And now the first thing upon your tongue after gaining consciousness is about your beloved is about your beloved Nabi Muhammad. His father frustrated, then leaves the room. His family members frustrated, leaves the room. And then his mother stays there. Ma to ma hoti hai na. She then gave food to him. Abu Bakr, eat for the sake of Allah. Abu Bakr, have something to drink. Gain your strength. He said, Amma Jan, by Allah, I won't eat and I won't drink until I don't know how my Nabi is doing. He's then told, O Muhammad, he's then told, O Abu Bakr, your Nabi is okay, your Nabi is well, your Nabi is fine. He says, oh Amma Jan, by Allah, not a sip of water will go down my throat, and not a morsel of food will go down my throat till I am not blessed with the sight of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's then taken and he's carried to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When my Nabi sees him, when my Nabi sees his beloved Abu Bakr coming towards him, then my Nabi could not contain himself. And my Nabi went, and my Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam embraced Abu Bakr Siddiq, and he kissed the forehead of Abu Bakr Siddiq. And my Nabi began to tear, and Sayyidina Siddiq Akbar began to tear, and all those Sahaba around began to cry. And Sayyidina Siddiq Akbar said, Ya Rasulullah, Now every pain I have forgotten, every difficulty I have forgotten, that I have laid my eyes upon you. Ya Rasulullah, I am okay, knowing that you are okay. I am well, knowing that you are well. Allah, brothers, this was love, and this was ishq, and they were ready to give up everything for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because they had surrendered before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. हिरा में वो गिरा था बेहोश होकर, नबी के लिए खाई ठोकर पे ठोकर, नबूवत का चेहरा नजर ढूंढती थी, हर लम्हा खैरुल बशर ढूंढती थी, बदन जख्मों से सारा महका हुआ था, जबान से वो कहता हुआ जा रहा था, मेरी जान कुर्बान जाने वफा पर, मैं राजी हूँ राजी हूँ राजी हूँ उसके रजा पर, मेरी जान जाने वफा के लिए है, मेरा हर नफस मुस्तफा के लिए है, मैं किसी को न देखूं मगर तुझको देखूं, सलामत है नजर जब तक तुझको देखूं, तू सदाकत में सिद्दीक अव्वल, तू खिलाफत में सिद्दीक अव्वल, यही नारा अली का, यही नारा गनी का, यही बोले उमर, सिद्दीक तेरी क्या बात है, सिद्दीक तेरी क्या बात है. Allah, understand, my brothers, when we have such people to look up to, and such people to call our role models, and such people in whose footsteps we should be following, then why are we looking elsewhere? Why are we making others our role models? When I have the life of Abu Bakr Siddiq before me, the life of Farooq Azam before me, then how dare I look elsewhere? How dare I call someone else my role model? That woman, that man who became ashik over a woman, and then he plucked up the courage to come to this woman, and he said, मैं तो आपका आशिक हो गया, मैं तो आपका दीवाना हो गया, आप जैसा हुस्न और जमाल मैंने नहीं देखा. He said, I become madly in love with you. Such beauty like yours I have not seen before. तो औरत भी बहुत होशियार थी. She said, you speak of my beauty. You not heard of my sister then. The whole village speaks of her beauty. The whole village praises her. And look behind you, there she is coming. And how this man turned around and he began to look. But when he turned around, there was no one there. And then when he turned back, and how this woman slapped him in the face. दावत इश्क का मुझसे करता है और देखता कहीं और है, मोहब्बत का दावा मुझसे करता है, देखता कहीं और है. You say you love me, but when you're told of better beauty, then you look elsewhere. Allah, brothers, if you read the lives of Sahaba, you will come to understand there are no better people who walked upon the face of this earth other than Sahaba Ikram. My brothers, let us read their lives. Let us study the lives of Sahaba, and then we will begin to build a bond with Allah. Then we will begin to build a connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah Almighty allow us to build a bond with Him and build a connection with Him, and stop chasing this dunya and running after this dunya. Because as man begins to run after this world, then he forgets his purpose in life. I leave you with this couplet, as this poet said, Fikr tujhko dunya subh sham hai, Fikr tujhko dunya subh sham hai, Ghaflat usi cheez se jo asal kaam hai, कुछ दिन सहले मुशक्कत दीन की, अरे मुसलमान फिर तो बस आराम ही आराम है. May Allah give me the tawfiq, may Allah give you tawfiq. Wal akhiru da'wan alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Jazakallah.
माशाअल्लाह माशाअल्लाह जज़ाकल्लाह. ये थी जनाब शेख बिलाल फारूक साहब राजकोट से. शेख अहमद अली साहब के यहाँ पढ़े पढ़ाते हैं. अल्लाह इनके इल्म में, अल्लाह इनकी स्पीच में, अल्लाह इनके कलाम में मज़ीद क़ुव्वत और ताकत और बरकत नसीब फरमाए. जो कि इन्होंने नसीहतें की अल्लाह हमें उस पर अमल करने की तौफीक नसीब फरमाए. वाकई सहाबे किराम तो सहाबे किराम थे. हमारा ये जो इज्तिमा है, कॉन्फ्रेंस है, तसव्वुफ से मुताल्लिक़ है. सहाबे किराम तसव्वुफ के आला दर्जे पर थे, उनसे बड़ा सूफी कोई नहीं. वो हर फील्ड में आगे थे. वो किसरा का कोई नुमाइंदा जासूस स्पाई उनको चेक करने के लिए आया. वापस जाकर उसने रिपोर्ट दिया तो उसने वो फेमस जुमला कहा कि ये कैसे हैं. उसने कहा बिल्लैल रुहबान व बिन नहार फुरसान. ये रात में राहिब और मॉन्क्स होते हैं और दिन में ये सोल्जर और वॉरियर होते हैं. अजीब मखलूक है. इसलिए कि इन दोनों को जमा करना ये मुमकिन नहीं. जो राहिब होता है वो इबादत खाने में इबादत करता है, और जो सोल्जर होता है वो اس میں فوج میں لڑتا ہے، لیکن یہ لوگ تو رات کو راہب بن جاتے ہیں اور دن کو سولجر بن جاتے ہیں، فوجی بنتے ہیں. تو رہبانیت ان میں یعنی عبادت کا شوق، اللہ کے سامنے کھڑا ہونا، رونا دھونا، دعائیں کرنا، یہی تصوف کی روح ہے. اگر ہمیں یہ چیز نصیب ہو جائے، اور یہ اس پروگرام کا مقصد ہی یہ ہے کہ تعلق مع اللہ ہمارا صحیح ہو جائے. اسی لیے نظر بد کے اوپر بیان کروایا، اور اسی لیے ڈرگز پر باتیں کی، اسی لیے یہ تعلق مع اللہ اور اللہ کے ساتھ کیسے ہمارا کنیکشن مضبوط ہو جائے، اس پر باتیں ہو رہی ہیں. اللہ ہمیں توفیق عطا فرمائے. حضرت مولانا شیخ بلال صاحب بھی تشریف لائیں گے انشاءاللہ، مشغول ہیں. شیخ محمود چاندیا صاحب بھی آنے والے تھے، لیکن مشغولیت ان کی کچھ آ گئی جس میں وہ عذر نہیں کر سکتے تھے، اس لیے انہوں نے کہا کہ میں نہیں پہنچ پاؤں گا. تو انشاءاللہ ابھی مغرب کی نماز کا وقت قریب ہے، تو وضو استنجا سے فارغ ہو کر کے صفحے بنا لیں، انشاءاللہ مغرب پڑھ لیں گے، اور مغرب بعد پھر دوبارہ پروگرام جاری رہے گا. ٹھیک ہے مولانا صاحب؟ کتنی دیر ہے؟ 4 منٹ ہیں. 58 کو اذان ہے، تو 4 منٹ میں وضو سے فارغ ہو جائیں، اور انشاءاللہ نماز بعد پروگرام کنٹینیو ہوگا. دعا کریں حضرت مولانا بلال صاحب بھی آ جائیں انشاءاللہ، اور شیخ بلال فاروق کے بعد شیخ بلال باوا صاحب کا بیان بھی ہم سنیں انشاءاللہ. جزاکم اللہ. السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. نہیں پڑھو نا، تم پڑھاؤ نہیں.